here today, but we're just so happy that you all are here with us in person and that there's quite a number of people joining us virtually. So without further ado, Cecile Ha with the Bordeaux Wine Council.
Guten Tag, bonjour. Welcome to you all online and live in San Francisco. My name is Cecile A, and on behalf of the Bordeaux Wine Council and with my colleague Stefan Schindler, Marketing Director at the Deutsche Wine Institute, we would like to warmly welcome you to our third Clink Different Press event. I don't know if you are familiar with this program, but Clink Different is a collective program between the German Wine Institute and the Bordeaux Wine Council, launched in 2019 in the US market. So you may be surprised, you may find it surprising that Germany and Bordeaux joined forces, but in fact, we have a lot in common. Both regions have an historical vineyard, which is about the same size. We both offer white, red, and sparkling wines. We both produce high level of quality wines that are supported by local leading vine and wine scientists. And also because wine is about culture, Germany and Bordeaux have many wine tourism sites and activities to offer to the tourists who visit us. And last but not least, for both regions, the US market is a key market. So the program, the Clink Different program, include consumer, trade, retail, and restaurants events. So nowadays, it's about sustainability and being respectful of nature and people, reducing our carbon footprint, consuming responsibly and in moderation, producing healthy products, paying attention to the climate change. All of these are social and societal issues that winegrowers from Germany and Bordeaux have been addressing for a long time. So today you will meet winemakers who are fully committed, sincere, authentic, and also responsible for the planet and for the people too. They have commitments to fully contribute to a more sustainable and fair society. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to Michael Osborne, our host for today's event. Michael Osborne, founder and executive vice president of wine.com, has been a pioneer in online wine retailing since 1998. Michael leads the company's effort in merchandising its wine and gift. He also cultivates key relationships with the wine industry around the world. Wine.com is also a Clink Different partner. We work together on various sales, promotion, and events. Thank you, Michael, for this partnership. So without further delay, Michael, welcome. And all together, we are going to share a very enjoyable moment. We have all the ingredients to make it happen. Interesting people and delicious wines.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And welcome to San Francisco. This is a beautiful day in the city. Just a day ago, we had some rain, which much needed rain, obviously. But today, we've got a beautiful blue sky weather. We're out of doors, so you're going to hear perhaps some rustling of the wind. But this is a real fun event to be here, knowing that we've got both in person, which is lovely to see you all in 3 dimensions, and I know we have many, many more guests that are tuning in with the webinar format. So welcome to everyone, and especially given the time zone differences. Our guests are here, obviously from both Germany and from France, so they're staying up late while we're going to enjoy lunch. They've enjoyed dinner just recently. The Clink Different campaign, and then specifically today, the Clink Sustainability Conference, we're going to be talking through issues of biodynamics and organic growing. We'll spend a little time on the human element as well as the climate change element, and the work that these pioneering wineries, or I really should say the leading wineries that have been chosen for this event, will focus on their own practices, and we're going to taste along. And each of them will have a moment to walk us through. So I think it's my pleasure to make some introductions. Perhaps we'll start with Johannes Hasselbach from Gunderlach Winery in Germany, and Klaus Burmeister of Berg Ravensburgo. We might see them pop up on the screens, or their cameras on. Jean-Baptiste Cardinier from Chateau Antonique from Bordeaux. He'll join us in a moment as well. And Claire Viars-Lerton from her family property of Haute-Bage Liberal. And those are the 4 wines as well. They'll make those introductions. But I'd like to see. There we are. We're starting to see you appear. Welcome. And I think Klaus's camera is maybe the last to come. Beautiful. Good evening, guest winemakers. Thank you. You know, I think that I'd like to start with the opening question about some of the primary sustainability efforts that you've taken. You've made initiatives in your countries, and I think I'd like to ask Johannes maybe to start off with lead us through a little conversation about what you've adopted at the winery in general speaking around sustainability.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome everybody in Germany, France, San Francisco, and wherever you're watching us. It's a huge pleasure to be able to present ourselves and our wines. But a very big thank you as well for giving the very important theme of sustainability the stage for this show, because I think nobody's exaggerating if we say like this is the challenge that our generation now has to solve. This is treating our vineyards, it's treating our family businesses. And I think just looking back at my very short time span as being winemaker here in Germany, when I was a kid and I went out with my parents picking grapes. It was October, late October, it was muddy, it was cold. I didn't really like it that much. But now, a couple of years ago, we started actually to pick grapes in August. So like just looking at this fact just tells us that a lot of things are changing for us, are changing in the world. And I think being raised and living in an agricultural, multi-generation agricultural family business, I think we see things that are happening, and we are looking for solutions for the things that are happening outside. And of course, like every generation is faced with different circumstances. And looking back in my own family, of course, the solutions that maybe we are proposing and that we are seeing necessary sometimes is watched a little bit skeptical from the older generations upon. And but at the end, we see us and we see our family businesses as a crew, that we are the employees of our vineyard sites, that we have to understand what the vineyards need from us. It's not us telling the vineyards what we want from them, what they need to do for us, but we have to watch very closely at our vineyards and understand what they need from us, and have to do our best to treat them well in the given circumstances. And maybe to go a little bit more into detail, what do we do in terms of sustainability in our winery? Well, basically, there's nothing we can leave out of the big picture, because trying to be a sustainable winery, I think, will be never completed. It's always needs to get better. We always need to find better solutions, because the challenges are also growing each year. And I think one very important point for me when I think about sustainability is that sustainability and dogmatism don't go very well with each other. So a lot of times we talk about things like organic, like biodynamic, and they are all very important, but they only put the light onto one part of our big complex piece of agriculture that we are executing. So I think to be able to always raise the point of sustainability and to do our best, it's never stopping. We always have to we have to look for new solutions. For example, like we are finishing our conversion to organic this year, but for a long time we didn't want to only look at organic. We didn't think that this is like the only answer to the big questions. We also have to look at our vineyards. Like we are growing in a very dry spot in Germany on steep slopes of rocky soils. We need to look how we best manage these soils. We have to find out, and here, for example, biodiversity, greening of our vineyards helps us huge amount in the last years. It helps us actually to conserve water, to encourage our vineyards to dig deeper into the soil. And of course, it brings also biodiversity to our wines. But like I think I'm talking too long already to answer this question, and I could keep on going like for half an hour probably, like because we have to turn around every stone literally and look under it to find solutions in terms how we can give the generations after us also a chance to be winemakers on the soils that my family has been tending and looking after for 6 generations now.
Spoken well as 6 generations. That's spectacular. Johannes, what did you bring for us today? It's the one white wine that we're going to be trying, your Cabernet?
Yes, correct. And so the wine that we are showing today is a Jean-Baptiste Cabernet. I apologize at all the native French speaker for my bad pronunciation of this beautiful name. My great-great-great-grandfather, he was not French, but he had a French nickname called Jean-Baptiste, as you might think of. And he started our family business as a banker, actually. So he sold his bank and bought vineyard sites. And nowadays people think this is crazy. But he was a little bit more crazy because he didn't want to buy vineyards that everybody was looking for. So he was actually buying, we are from Rheinhessen, which is normally the home of the flat vineyards. And we have a very tiny spot of steep vineyard sites right next to the Rhine River. And that's what he bought. So we are working on steep slopes. We are working on rocky vineyards. We make our lives very hard. But in the passion that he was thinking that as a small family business, you need to do something better. Like there's always people that can be more efficient, that can be faster, that can be cheaper. The family can do something special. And that is what we are doing for 6 generations now. And therefore, Jean-Baptiste is a very good business card for this.
Well, let's get our nose in this. We have the whiteboard. I hope those of you watching with us from home have had a chance to get as recently as well. But let's put our nose in this, and why don't you lead us through a tasting note, your descriptors.
Yeah, so this wine is coming from our 3 best vineyard sites faced along the River Rhine on red slate. And so the red slate gives the wine always a very distinctive combination out of different aromas. You will find some fruity notes in there, like stone fruit flavors and some citrusy aromas, but you also always find a very like herbally approach to it. There's always like fresh kitchen herbs cut in your kitchen. And then in combination with a very balanced taste which comes through the soil, but also to our mediated climate of very cold night, but nice warm days. It just gives the wine a very round and balanced approach, and you will very easily finish a glass and maybe the bottle even without noticing. Perfect for San Francisco weather, I would say.
It's a beautiful pairing with our weather here today. It's wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your comments. Is there a chance that Jean-Baptiste could offer some insights into what his family has done with respect to sustainability in your winery?
So my very personal opinion is that the word sustainability is sometimes too weak because it was too often overused. I prefer to use the concept of agroecology, or even better, agroforestry. The gateway to a higher level of sustainability here in Otonic was the planting of my first hedge 10 years ago. And I discovered within a year after that planting the profound impact of that particular decision. It was a wildlife corridor. And the first sign of that was the arrival of baby garter snakes. I don't know if the word is correct, couleuvre in French, from the edge to my kitchen. And since then, the dream has never left me to go further and further, planting miles of edges. Then trees in the plots, using mycorrhizae, covering the soils, rebuilding living soils, developing more and more biodiversity every year. And I'm convinced that we can take a lot of carbon in the atmosphere, and that we have in our hands a part of the answer to global warming. And I've never stopped since that moment when my passion for the forest came back into my vigneron life. And today I feel that the more I learn about all that agroforestry, the more I believe that is only a small beginning.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. Moving to perhaps agriculture, I would like to hear from Klaus about his techniques both in winemaking and in, in your philosophy in winemaking, but also in the agricultural practices at your property.
Yes, hi. It's a big pleasure for me to join this. And I have to say, for us, our winemaking philosophy is to bring the magic of a vineyard or of a terroir in the bottle on the palate. So what means this for us? It means that agriculture and winemaking has been very, very much going hand in hand. Also, Burg Ravensburg is now this year 770 years, one of the oldest wine estates in the world, belong to 10 oldest. So it has a history of sustainability, because we wouldn't be there for 770 years. We're not always adapting to conditions which challenge us, what Johannes said. And so for us, we started about in 94 with cover crops, and especially for me, finding more and more that soil needs to be alive. It's not about grapes and the plants, it's about the system. It's about the soil, the roots, the microorganisms. I just love what they say about to see animals, insects in your vineyards, to bring back life. And we are since 2010 organic certified, we work since 14 biodynamic. And I love what Johannes said. It's not about dogma, it's about respect in the vineyards and in the cellar. So if you do not make a great work in the vineyard with respecting your soil, respecting the nature, and respecting your resources, and especially the plants, because we want the fruit from the plants, you will not succeed making a great wine at the end. I very strongly believe that. So I kind of like to say you have to work hard in the vineyard and give a lot of respect to the wines and to the whole team, and you have just to love what you're doing and see what you're doing. And so in the cellar, it's more of hands-off. Just trust on your vineyards, trust on the work you have done. The moment you cut off the grapes, you cannot make it better than what you just got in your hands or in your buckets. You just have to secure this and respect this and give it also time and space in terms of let the talents of your vineyards and what you did come out in the cellar and then shine in the bottle or in a glass. And I think if you start going this way and see what happens to your wines, you find our wines are getting more characteristic, they're getting more, have more maturing potential. It's the more we do sustainable and have those balance in the vineyards, the less we have to do in the vineyards, which is in the cellar. So this is great for us. So it's not only that we have to do it to get along another 770 years, it's something we have to do, and we see it's going to work.
With this, your Pinot Noir, and something along the Clink Different campaign that I've discovered is just how important Pinot Noir is to Germany. But you've been consuming so much of it locally. In the U.S., we haven't had an opportunity to get our hands on all the good stuff. So we certainly appreciate the growth of exporting your Pinot Noir outside of Germany, getting it to us and other countries. But can you walk us through? Tell us about the wine. And in your style in Pinot Noir, I was pleasantly surprised when I looked at the label to know it's 12.5% alcohol. So this is a very food-friendly wine and quaffable in the afternoon. But tell us more.
Thanks for that. Baden, the appellation I'm from, it's the main varietal is Pinot Noir. So it's our DNA to produce Pinot Noir. The world doesn't have found out that much, but we have a history of nearly 1,000 years for Pinot Noir. And as I said before, I think we don't need to power up our wines. If you do good work in the cellar, wines work with 12.5% alcohol. It's about respecting the conditions. 2018 was a very hot year, but very important, you pick at the right moment. You know your vineyards, you taste your berries, you just find the perfect moment when the fruit is ripe for wine and gives you this tension and freshness and fruit expression. And then, as I said, it's not about power, it's about the energy of a wine and what the story about what it tells you. But Pinot Noir, as we all know, is quite tricky varietal too. And I'm just so happy that we have conditions for Pinot Noir in such a history. We have gypsum limestone, also with clay. So perfect conditions, perfect terroir for Pinot Noir. And we do the winemaking very classical. It's all hand-picked, 100% hand-picked. It's we do cold soak for about 3 days. It's full berry fermentation and no filtration. Just bring it as pure as natural on the bottle and have fun. And I think you really can also you have this earthy side to it, but you also have that beautiful fruit side to a Pinot Noir and a beautiful, nice, smooth tannin structure.
Well, thank you for sharing this. Can you tell us what vintage you started with finishing this in a screw cap?
We started in 2008 with doing screw caps because we had so much trouble with corks. And I just said to myself, I just don't like anymore to spoil a closure, the work of 12 months, because I think for those wines, the screw cap is as good as a cork. Probably even better. But we can have a great discussion about that.
That's a different program. We'll be here another hour. That's awesome. Thank you, Klaus, for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Claire, would you be willing to give us some of your insights in winemaking practices and specifically around agriculture and what you've done? She's muted for a moment, though. Sorry, Claire, we're going to have to ask you to join us again with your unmuting. Aha.
It's okay? You hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Okay, so sorry. No, I said that I'm completely in connection with Klaus regarding the wine. My goal is to express completely the terroir in the bottle. All my vines, I have 2 chateaus, Chateau Bas-Gibéral and Chateau Ferrières. Both are in organic and biodynamic. So the vines are completely connected with the ground, with the soil, because there is no chemical, so everything must be connected in the ground. And so in organic, and especially in biodynamic in Bordeaux, is very complicated because of the mildew issue. We try to produce a wine as natural as possible, and so to express all that in the cellar, we really try to we had zero yeast. It's absolutely natural fermentation, no income, you know, it's completely natural vinification. We don't use any heat. The temperature is growing up in function of the cinetic of the fermentation. So we are very, very respectful about the wine, and the wine is doing by itself, you know. So less intervention is our goal and our objective, to create a wine completely in connection with its terroir. So I think, you know, in this term of winemaking, the philosophy is to be as close as possible with its terroir, and the expression of the wine by all this process is the quality of the tannins. You can have beautiful tannins, very well balanced, very complete tannins, because they are with a very big personality. So I think that,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Sorry.
Claire, if we're looking into the future, maybe a little comment about climate change and how you think that has impacted you or might continue to impact you in Bordeaux, and give us a chance to understand if you've made any changes in your practices in the vineyard as a result.
Yeah, of course. So firstly, I want to, I'm the happy owner of two chateaux, and especially Aubage Libéral, that I inherited from my family. And my grandfather was a visionnaire, and 40 years ago he bought this beautiful estate. And now I'm completely alone, I'm completely owner for more than 20 years. So I have to be visionnaire too with this new challenging time. So for more than 15 years now, we are completely in organic and biodynamic viticulture. We are certified, Demeter, organic, etc. But I realized that, as said Klaus I realized that to be organic and biodynamic was not the only way, you know. It's we have to improve all the time, and to improve in terms of living soil, and to be completely, for the vines to be completely in connection with this terroir, we need to have very, very living soil with the mycorrhizas which are in connection with the vines. So 15 years ago we started to plant cover crop and plenty of age, and corridors. We created corridors to be in relation with the forest, and to bring a lot of biodiversity by the birds, and especially with the mycorrhizas that we can bring with the trees and the plants, to be completely connected, and to really create a beautiful biodiversity. But the most important is the carbon sequestration, because all the carbon that you take from the trees is going to the soil, and by the work of the horns, you know, which has the best producer of humus, you can recreate carbon in your ground. And when we started cover crop 15 years ago, we realized that it makes competition with the vines. So firstly, the vines suffer against drought, and so we started to seed. We seeded different kind of seed, cruciferous, leguminous, cereals, to bring more and more biomass and more grass. And we realized that 3-4 years after, the vines completely were completely in adequation and didn't suffer, and suffered less and less years after years. And even, you know, Bordeaux, and especially in Aubage Libéral, we have a very high density vines. We have 10,000 plants per hectare. So it's 1 meter or 3 feet into each range. So it's the highest density in the world. So to manage cover crop is very, very challenging. But we realized how the results was impressive, and how we could, I will say, fight against the warming climate. So now we plant trees in the vines. I have 2 blocks where I plant 90 trees per hectare, which is very, very important. But the trees are the best machine to create water, to create humidity, to create humus, biodiversity, and to take back in the whole time, to create vines and to plant vines with trees, as it was in the past, to help carbon to be fixed again in the ground. So my really way of thinking is to come back with the tools that our grandfather, our grandfather used, of course, with the mechanization, it's very challenging, but we have to be an example on that. So Aubage libérale is an example of cover crop, of trees in the vines, and today I decided to present you a special wine, which is not Aubage libérale. The name is Ceres. It's a very special wine. It's a wine which is coming from a blotch, which is in Haut-Médoc. It's not a Pauillac, but it's made in Aubage libérale. It's not already, I just released it, so it's not at this time in US, but it will go soon in the market. So it's a very natural wine because Ceres is a block of vine which is conducted in agroforestry. So we planted 90 trees per hectare. So we do that step per step. So every year we plant 90 trees in the vineyard. So every 14 rows we plant a row of trees. And of course it's cover crop, of course it's Demeter certified organically, and it's a wine without sulfites. So it's very natural wines,
Next year, we're going to put a camera out in the vineyard earlier in the day to see these. Your words give us such good visualization, and then the label matches up to that. But this is when I call you, you're teasing us, though. You're offering us a wine that we don't have yet in the States, but we get to try it today, the 2020 vintage. So take us through your tasting note while we're trying this, Claire.
So the wine is a very special wine. So I have just the label. Just firstly, the label was created by a famous artist that I like very much the work. He's only work on trees. He's just drawing trees, and he draw a vine which is growing in a tree because the vines is a liane, and usually in the past it was growing on a tree, and the flowering was on the canopy. So Ceres is an example of a wine which is conducted in agroforestry. So it's a very young wine, of course, it's 2020, but it's wine with no sulfites. I think we can keep it several years. You can't keep it 20 years or 10 years because it's without sulfite, but it's a wine which can age quite well. And I will say it's very funny because I have the luck to be owner of Classified Growth, but I wanted to make something new, something very challenging. And I think with Ceres, we can have a nice example of a very easy Bordeaux on limestone, very chalky soil, plenty of fruit and very generous.
I'm anxious for the tannins are quite powerful now, obviously in the young vintage. So anxious to keep an eye on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
My goodness, is there a still on climate change? Maybe we could go back to Johannes in Germany, in what you've been thinking about in your vineyard practices as a result. Obviously, with both with the change in climate and also with the change in temperatures and even other issues of Mother Nature. Of course, Germany's was hard hit earlier in the year. Could you give us some insights?
Yeah, of course. I mean, everybody has probably seen it on the news that Germany has been hit by some terrible flooding, and it was very hard for us to see, even though we are far away, that our good colleagues suffered, and we tried to offer our help if we could. I was actually up there visiting some wineries and helping to clean up the mess, and it was a really, really big disaster. And I think in Germany, what is happening right now, it brings back the attention to climate change, to things that are happening to nature, and it is we are getting more attentive. But what humans always do, they forget very fast, and so I think it's a really, really important issue, especially for us winemakers, to keep the things that worry us, to see the things that we see every day we go out in the vineyards. We see the weather is changing, and I think a bottle of wine that stays on is present at a dinner table will always be a part of the discussion. And if we can load up our wine with a strong sustainability message, I think it's an obligation and it's a chance at the same time to inspire people with what we are doing. And in our certain region, we always see climate change, and we see the change in climate in the whole weather patterns happening quite fast, because we are one of the driest and warmest spots in Germany, and we grow Riesling. And so you think, oh, so what do you do in the future? Do you change the grape varieties maybe to some Bordeaux, some very interesting Bordeaux varieties that we are talking about today? But I think for us as farmers and agricultural people, it's not the idea to change the grape variety. It's more the idea to change the concept we are thinking, to change our perspective, and to put our efforts in favor to do what we can do in order to make our future safe for our children as hopefully winemakers in our region, but also to inspire people with our knowledge and our passion and about our worries maybe that we see outside in nature when we work in the vineyards every day.
Have you seen in recent years changes in when you're beginning to harvest, picking?
Yeah, a big time. Like this year was more normal for us. Like a lot of people say now we have finally a normal German year. We started harvesting end of September, which is nowadays quite late for us. But as I said, like 2018, we started picking end of August, which was also emotionally very hard. I wanted to make it into September, but there was no chance. We actually had to go out and pick for the first time in our history, only 130 years old, our winery. So we are still a startup for German relations, but still like picking grapes in August makes you feel very crazy. And for us, climate change results in two very important things. One is heat, where we try to optimize our canopy management or our soil management to keep the soil chilly by greening. We see a lot of positive effects by greening, but on the other hand, the second treat that comes with climate change is the absence of water. We only get like 300 millimeters of rain per year, which is very, very low. So we have to be extremely careful with what we do outside in the vineyards to conserve every drop of water. And my father has built an irrigation system. And now, of course, I get asked by my customers when we go out in the vineyards, oh, you have an irrigation system, so you cannot be organic. And I said, no, it's a different story. Of course, it would be a crazy and cool story to tell. So I rip out the irrigation system, and it would make it to the news and say, oh, the young guy that rips out the irrigation system. But as I said earlier, like dogmatism has no place in sustainability. And for me, it's an emergency. If my wines are really suffering, if I've done everything that I can to save my wines, in some years, I can imagine I need water to give to my vineyards. But at the end, it's a very complex picture. We cannot answer it today, unfortunately, but maybe we can pass on a little bit of the ideas and the challenge that we see, the passion that we have to make our vineyards, our businesses fit for the future in respect to climate change. And maybe we can inspire one or two people today and spread a word of sustainability.
Thank you. If it wasn't enough during the pandemic, we've got the 3 F's of floods, the fires in California and other parts of the world, for that matter, and frost. For goodness sakes, it's like Mother Nature and the pandemic were helppful in the past 18 months in this industry. So appreciate your comments on that. The question of so we move Mother Nature aside and think about the human elements of what goes into sustainability. Is there a chance that Jean-Baptiste could comment on what you're doing, involving the human element in sustainability at your property in Bordeaux?
Yeah, and both together, and not only at Antonique, but at at the scale of the Medoc and now spreading in other regions. My source is the concept of integral ecology. And the human element is central in the integral ecology. Nothing can be done in ecology without integrating the human dimension. It's very, very important. I have founded in 2018 the collective of Les Vignerons du Vivant. In American, the best translation is the living wine growers. The concept is to build a group of wine growers who together will prepare young people between 18 and 30 years old for the profession of wine worker. We choose a public quite far from the job market. They have no diploma, no job, no internship. And we teach them the trade by the gesture, not like in a school. And we never pronounce the word of school. The vineyard is the classroom. The cellar is the classroom. And the teachers join the students in the field. That's very important. And inside that project, the agroecological dimension is at the heart of the training because we want them to be ready for the profession, the business, the agriculture of tomorrow, not the agriculture of yesterday. We know from experience that the agroecological dimension is probably the best way to make them passionate about a profession that doesn't exactly attract young people. The teachers are coming from a local technical viticulture school, and we bring inside the team the best specialists in agroecology. And then the students are very proud to be taught by stars of agroecology. And the personal social support that is very important in that project is given by the apprentice of Auteuil, Les Apprentis d'Auteuil. They are a very famous French foundation specialized in the integration of young people. And this year we are launching the fourth promotion of a dozen young people. We are now 20 chateaux in the group in Medoc, from the small family-run estate to some first-class wine growers. And we all share the same enthusiasm. We have broken a sort of glass ceiling between us, and that's quite new in Medoc. And Claire Lurton is also part of that adventure. She's in the team of these 20 estates. At the end of that one-year training, 75% of the students find a job in these estates or in other estates. And this year, we are very proud to launch two new groups of Les Vignerons du Vivant, one in Saint-Émilion. They have started this week, and another one in Perpignan. They have started last week. And we hope to open more in the future.
That's, Jean-Baptiste, that's extraordinary. Especially knowing that, as you said, the glass ceiling, so many times young entrants into the industry would otherwise have to have been born in it, like some of you, generationally, and that really creates a barrier. If you're not in the industry to start with, it's been hard to enter it. So what you're doing is extraordinary.
And the surprise was to break the same ceiling between the estates. It was a big surprise to see that.
That's awesome. Thank you. You've got to share. Claire brought something very new and fresh, the 2020 vintage, and we have a 2016 vintage of Antonique with us today. Can you can you tell us about this, about the wine specifically, and your tasting note on it?
Yeah, 2016 is the first year of my organic conversion in Château Antonique. It's a great vintage in Bordeaux with a late harvest. We have started the harvest beginning of October, October 3, and we have finished October 18. So it was a very late harvest. And with a long Indian summer, so the tannins, they had plenty of time to reach a top ripeness. Like ever in Antonique, we have mostly Merlot in our blend. It's surprising because we are in southern Médoc, the kingdom of Cabernet Sauvignon, but locally we have limestone clay soils with a very compact blue clay underground, and this soil makes fantastic Merlot. And for that reason, we have in Château Antonique more Merlot than Cabernet Sauvignon. But in that vintage, the Cabernet Sauvignon, even at a percentage of only 21%, were supporting very well the Merlot. When I describe my wine, we complete these two varietals by a small amount of Petit Verdot and Cabernet Franc, less than 1% of each in that vintage, but it's changing every year. When I try to give a description of my wine, I use the comparison of the human body. The Cabernet Sauvignon, even at a percentage of only 20%, there are a deep skeleton. The Merlot are like the muscles. The Cabernet Franc is the outside structure, the peel, and then you have the drop of Petit Verdot, that small percentage of Petit Verdot, and it's Marilyn Monroe's pyjama, the drop of Chanel No. 5, so the last perfume of the wine. So that I like to use, when I build my wine, that image, because when we make the blend, we build a new body every year. And at the top end, when we add the Petit Verdot, we have the perfume of the vintage. Cheers.
Very, very good analogy. Thanks for sharing that. As a matter of housekeeping, I didn't mention earlier that we're going to be open to taking some questions, both from our audience online as well as here in San Francisco. So if there are questions that you're thinking of now, queue them up either with the Q&A on the webinar, or in person here. We'll take a number of questions from our audience. But I think I would like to throw it back to Germany and ask Klaus if he could elaborate on the human element in sustainability that's happening at your property.
I like to say the human element is very, very crucial, because wine is not a natural product. There is no wine in nature. If humans don't put their hands on it, you cannot make wine. So it's a thing between doesn't matter. I try a different word. Both sides are important, like the nature and humans. So humans plant the grapes, humans train the plants. They do all the decisions. We train the vineyards, we harvest the grapes, we let the fermentation happen, and we have the wine at the end, what Jean-Baptiste said beautifully, as a body, or however you would describe this. So the human aspect is so crucial about winemaking, and also a biodynamic aspect, very, very important, because also if you go to biodynamics, the energy of humans, of the nature, is connected. So I like to explain, if we have a team that has fun doing the work in the vineyards, the result will be better than if they have no fun doing it. So it's everything what we do. If we have fun doing something, it's just you get a better result. So we need the human resources that have fun working in the vineyards. It is hard these times to find people working in the vineyards, in a cellar, but once you brought them there, you show them the magic of making wine and growing wine. It's something very special. And then if they go smiling in the vineyards and work in the vines, it's a huge difference if somebody cuts off a grape, puts it in his hand, puts it in a bucket, than if it's harvested by a machine. These are those little aspects. It's a difference if you do the punch down in the Pinot Noir by hand, when you feel the cap, when you feel the tension of everything, then you just do it by a machine. And all this passion at the end converts also in the quality of the wine. Yes, we cannot make an amazing wine out of an okay vineyard. No human can do that. But you can make a horrible wine out of a great vineyard. So it has to come together. So our fun, our energy, and our passion, and what Johannes said, we need new generations picking this up. We have to light their passion of winemaking and bring us on the next steps, and also give us, I'm an older winemaker now, new thoughts, new energy, other things, and to make great wines, and that you guys enjoying wines, have fun, and say, wow, this is a great product.
And that it is. Thank you. As we get to a few questions, I got one back to Jean-Baptiste. One of your friends is asking, in what year did you plant the hedge again? So you've got to tell us more about the hedge, and then in what year did it get replanted?
Yeah, the first hedge, it was in 2010.
In 2010.
2010, yeah. It was the first step.
Nice. Thank you. There's one observation, and I think I might toss a question out to each of you about your, what you believe to be the most important impact you can make with respect to your carbon footprint. Like, before I toss that to each of you to answer, I do want to point out that I've been up here lifting up each of these bottles, and I'm very appreciative of how lightweight the glass is. This is very important to us. And as a result, we're, as wine.com, everything we deliver to a consumer, we're shipping. So we're shipping it again. And when there's a useless, heavy bottle involved, nobody wins except Federal Express or UPS. It's like they get paid for that heavier weight, but it adds no value to the wine. So my hat is off to all four of you for having some of the lightest weight bottles that I've lifted lately. And consumers, they don't make a choice about it. So if I was to weigh in, I think that's a really important distinction that wineries should adopt, because heavy bottles are not adding any of the attributes that we're picking up in the wine, and they shouldn't. But I guess I could walk around the room here. Claire, could you tell us if you have any one thing that's top of mind to reduce your carbon footprint, or that the industry should do, not necessarily what you're not doing? Oh, we have you muted again. I'm so sorry, Claire.
So sorry. So firstly, in the vineyard, our footprint is to spray less and less, because of course a tractor always is not good for the carbon and for everything. So we need to have a very resilient vines, and to have vines which are very strong against disease. And it's why we plant trees, we plant a lot of cover crop for the connection. And then in the cellar, we try to be less, we don't bring heat, we try to use as less as possible energy, and gas and electricity. You mentioned the bottle. The bottle is probably the biggest impact in terms of carbon print. But everything in my bottle in Ceres, of course, the wine is in organic and biodynamic, but the paper is a recycled paper. The cardboard also is recycled. We try. Do you know the glass is a wonderful thing because the glasses are created by it's recycled 99%. You know, it's one of the material which is the best recycle. So. Of course, we try to have a very light things, but everything is a philosophy. We have to do and to be careful in every steps.
Claire, thank you. Thank you for your comment on packaging. Obviously, it's a strong point for me. The other is pine boxes. The world doesn't need more pine boxes. So I appreciate you putting your wine in lightweight corrugated as well and recycled paper boxes. That's so important. Our consumers in the States don't necessarily ever get that box. It gets recycled again, and it's been heavily treated, so that's never good. So I appreciate your focus on packaging. Klaus, or Johannes, maybe I'll take it to you. Johannes, what would you say wineries could do to reduce their footprint?
Well, I think as a winery, we have the great chance of working together and putting efforts together. And as we all know, working together as a team for a joint cause makes some things much easier. And for example, both Klaus and me, we are members of the VDP, the Association of German Premium Winemakers. And I'm chairman of our regional chapter in Rheinhessen, but also have taken over the lead for the sustainability initiative that we are doing in the VDP. And one point that we have that you have addressed, I think it's a no-brainer that the bottle weights have to be reduced because it's useless spending of energy. And here, for example, all 200 wineries of the VDP, we are working on a promise to use only lightweight glass bottles. And this is the biggest leverage that we have in our hands. But also many other, like glass bottles are no-brainer and not really interesting, but I think there's a lot of other really interesting projects that we are trying to start together. For example, most wineries are big buildings with a lot of roofs, and we want to put all our roofs together to create big solar panels on all the wineries together. And so there are really, really many interesting projects that we are working in. But as I said before, like we cannot leave any stones unturned. We have to look under every stone where we can find something that we can do better. Reducing plastic in our wineries, we are using a lot of recycling materials, and like every single step of the process we are watching and trying to put it under the light of sustainability and just getting better year by year and step by step.
Do any of you have a comment about what work you might be doing with water, whether it's conservation or reclaiming water?
Well, like one very important part of water usage in agriculture, of course, like we don't want to use artificial water for watering our plants. So dry farming is pretty much an obligation that we are not perfect, but we are working on it. And the same, but this is sometimes proves to be a little bit more difficult, is a wastewater treatment in our wineries, because we are all very traditional wineries in the middle of villages and city centers growing for generations. But I agree that is a very crucial point where we are looking together for solutions to get better on this point as well.
Nice.
Perhaps may I say something to the topic, please, too?
Yes, Klaus.
I'm totally agree with Johannes, but also which also goes to what we had before. I think fixing carbon in our soils is a major thing we can do. Not only packaging, having solar panels on our roofs. Our estate produces more electricity energy than we need. But I think a crucial point is carbon and organic material in the soil, because with that, fixing carbon, we do something against climate change. Second thing is, with doing that, we have a higher capacity of storage of water in our soils. Like 1% of humus or organic material means more means 300,000 liters of water capacity in a hectare of a field or of a vineyard. So with doing that also, we make our soils better. We get less dependent on irrigation. So this is for me a major part. Like we just bring out our organic compost we do by ourselves, just to again cover crops to do that. And with that, we can save water, and we also can do a lot against climate change.
Michael?
Thank you. And Claire, you have one more comment?
Yeah, I just want to recommend to all the people who are drinking the wine and who are listening us today is I don't know if you ever heard about Kiss the Ground. It's a documentary which is on Netflix that I recommend to everybody. Kiss the Ground is open your eyes on the, as said Klaus, on the carbon print in the soil because of the trees, because of the cover crop. It's not speaking about vines especially, but it speaks about the agriculture in general. So, Michael, did you already see Kiss the Ground?
I have not. Now it's on my list.
Oh, please look
Thank
at this
you.
documentary, and I would recommend this documentary to everybody who never see it. It's a light, you know. When you see that, it's a very optimistic message against the warming climate, thanks to the trees and the cover crop, and that all the work we are doing with my colleagues today.
Wonderful. Can I have one more question from our online audience is to ask if any of you have noticed, when moving to biodynamics or organics and in the work you're doing in sustainability, has it changed at all the taste of your wine and the profile of your wine? Does anyone want to take that question on?
Yes, please, if I may. Again, what we recognize is we found the wines are more stable. As I said, we have less problems in the cellar. Our natural fermentation works perfectly. We can trust more the wines. There's no fining needed anymore. And at the end, we really find that the wines show more character and again, more energy. That's very, very important for me, that they have the energy and take the ones which are drinking them, and also more aging potential.
I would love to add a comment as well and paraphrase it a little bit. Like, I don't think organic winemaking has really changed the style of winemaking for us, but it has saved the style of the wines and the possibility to represent our soils in Riesling in warmer getting climate would not be possible without the ideas of organic and biodynamic winemaking, because it, as we have heard before, it stabilizes the whole system. There are so many positive effects. You cannot pinpoint it down to single charts of it, but the whole big picture, I think it's really important to walk this road. I understand people that are not getting a certification, but I think it has to be very honest approach, and the practicing in the field has to be very reliable and not only greenwashing. And I think that is a really important development that has to grow bigger amongst the winemakers, and it's growing, and this is a really positive effect for us.
Well, thank you for that comment, and I think that's a great ending to the Clink Different and Clink Sustainable, and it's been a pleasure to have all four of you today and the audience here in San Francisco as well as online. I can't think of a better venue than to be on the water, where Mother Nature plays a huge role in the Bay Area in our ecosystem, to have hosted this today here in San Francisco. Thank you for for staying up with us so late as you have. And raise a glass.
A pleasure. Thank you for having us.
It
Thank
was
you,
a great,
everybody.
great moment. Thank you for your time and for your attention.
Did see if any other closing remarks? Oh, yes, sir. Thank you.
I think I was asked to say a few words at the end, and I would just like to take the opportunity to congratulate us all for the timing of this event today. As you know, in Glasgow, the UN Climate Change Conference is sitting together today, this week, and our world leaders are trying to find ways to save this planet. And just read that United States and China have agreed today to work together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think we may have froze a little bit, but thank you. We heard the gist in the opportunity to have the timing of this at the same time that climate change is on everybody's minds, both politically and in business and with our consumers. So cheers. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Apparently, I was just.
Yes, we hear you. Yeah.
So just want to, because I think I just was cut off. So European Union wants that 25% of the whole agriculture in Europe should be organic by 2030. So we see that politics put themselves behind organic and sustainable aims. We see that also from the trade. We had a meeting this year with the wine buyer of the Swedish monopoly, who said for him, the person who buys all wine for Sweden, basically, it's no longer enough to be organic. In the future, the product sold, wine sold in Sweden should also be sustainably produced. So that's good news also from the side of the trade. And we know that also from the side of the consumers, there is growing demand. And another fact, just a few days ago, research institutions, supermarkets, producers from all over the world have decided together to found what they call the Sustainable Wine Roundtable. From Germany, the University of Geisenheim is part of that initiative. And they wanted to develop a consensus of what sustainability means, how it is implemented and measured. So we see from many sides that this is an extremely important subject for all of us, for the survival of this planet, but also for obviously also for the survival of our wine growing both in Bordeaux and Germany and the rest of the world. And finally, I would like to thank our producers for being here today, for spending the time with us, for sharing their wines with us. And what we noticed, I think all of us, was that you're not doing this because the market demands it from you. You're not doing this because of for marketing reasons or for selling your wine. You're doing this because you're utterly convinced of what you're doing. And thank you for that. And for the rest of you all, have a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.